Welcome to Cowbell Off Campus. I'm your host, Landon Young, along with my co-host, Addison Thigpen. First, we'd like to thank our sponsor, maroonandwhitenation.com. It's a Mississippi State sports blog that produces content made for Mississippi State fans, just like this podcast. This is just two average Mississippi State fans producing contents for the average fan. And that's what we do. We come on here, recap the games, preview the next game, and talk SEC football and answer your questions. And that's what we'll do today. Addison will be reviewing and recapping the LSU game. Mississippi State loses 31-16, and then we will preview the Bowling Green Falcons. I just learned they were the Falcons yesterday, actually. So
I didn't know that either.
it feels weird saying it out loud. And then we'll pick the line like we always do in all of our SEC games, and then we will answer your Twitter questions. And we've got to make time to be able to do that because you guys were faithful and sent in a bunch of questions to us. So thank you so much. First off, Addison, Mississippi State goes to Death Valley, loses 31-16. I'm here with the guy who knows all the answers about Mississippi State football, Addison Thigpen. What went right in Death Valley and what went wrong?
Well, I mean, I think this week we can start out with like what actually went wrong, which was a lot. I actually, you know what? I'll start with what went right because I feel like that was there's less there. So we started out good. I mean, let's just be honest. Our defense looked great opening the game. Offense wasn't bad. Leach was taking shots early, which was great. I felt like honestly, like we had that, the first drive, we go for it on fourth down. I think we very early in the game, like we're showing LSU that like we're coming here to win this football game. We're not coming here to tie. We're not coming here to lose. We're coming here to take shots when we need. And I mean, those were two pretty aggressive fourth downs that he went for it on, early on. And I liked it. I liked both calls, and we had some pretty decent plays. Then we get into where we start running the ball up on those fourth downs, and we really shouldn't have. Or like the box is stacked on us, and we really didn't have any offensive linemen or tight ends that we needed. And I feel like that's where things kind of started to change a little bit, just at the start. And then I feel like our defense played really, really well the first half. So I do want to give them credit, but they were just on the field a lot. And I think that's one of the main reasons that that they started to kind of get sloppy in the end there. We talk about time of possession and how that's a big factor in Mike Leach's offense, but we didn't control it this game. LSU beat us, 33-27. So they had more time of possession than we did. They had more yards than we did. I think one of the big factors that, you asked me last week was like, who does our top guy need to be on offense? And maybe the answer was just Will Rogers, because we got to be able to go on the road and do that. And Will Rogers threw for 214 passing yards, which is not an awful day, but not great for an air raid offense. And LSU threw for 211. And we're looking at this quarterback at LSU that we know is not just like a stud receiver. Or, I mean, we know he's not a stud quarterback. We know he's not a stud passing QB. We know he's an athletic guy. And so for us to not be able to hold him to less than that, and then he also rushed for like right at 90 yards. I mean, it's those are the kind of things that we just can't let happen. I think it was a lot of execution errors. I mean, I could go on and on about what didn't go right in that game. But I think the main thing is that we got to be consistent from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. And we can't let those things like time of possession, the things that we built our offense on, get away from us in these big games.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You hit on those fourth down calls. I'm interested to know your thoughts a little bit more on, you open up the game going for it on your own 22-yard line. I was scared to death as soon as we ran the offense out there on the 22-yard line. And I was like, oh boy, this is a lot. But a lot of people have talked about it since, about how they feel like Leach did that because he knew he had to take chances to be able to win this game. What were your thoughts, not only on that, but also on like the calls itself, like the play call?
Yeah. The first one I didn't hate. I thought it was a fine play. Then I think we ran the ball twice in a row, and we definitely shouldn't have. I mean, there was they had us like outnumbered 8-5 or something on the line like that, and it was just like you can't run the ball when you're looking against that type defense when you don't have that many people on the offensive line. And it's tough because we don't run out of the eye, we don't do any of that. So like we're always in the shotgun. So there's a lot of times we're going to be a man down regardless there. But with that being said, I don't hate the play call. I mean, you're in Death Valley. And I think that's what a lot of people, yet again, going back to what I said last week, I think we kind of were overlooking LSU, which sounds crazy because it is LSU. But I mean, I think we weren't really realizing that this is some of the best talent in the entire nation that we were playing against this last weekend. Several All-Americans. We've seen a lot of these guys play pro. And so, yeah, I don't hate those decisions going into their stadium.
That showed it showed that they had more talent towards the end of the game. And like you said, our defense really played good enough to win the game. They just got tired, and when you get tired against better talent, it's going to show on the field.
Right.
There were a lot of key moments in this game. I think one of the key moments was letting them go score right before halftime. I think that just kind of deflated our defense a little bit. And then obviously the muffed punt by Austin Williams was the turning point of the game. Would you have done the same thing there by rolling Austin Williams out there, or would you have given it to Xavier Thomas like we had every single time before that?
I would have done Austin Williams. And honestly, first game of the season, we did that. We had him come out there, and the commentator said, "Oh, they call this guy Mr. Reliable." And as soon as they said that, I was like, "Oh, he's dropping a punt this year or something," because why say that? He killed us. But I take Austin Williams out there. If you've got something where you need somebody to be reliable, he's your guy. And you need somebody to catch that ball where it was. He just messed up and made a mistake right there. Yeah, and I mean it sucks, but I know he'll bounce back. So
yeah, I agree. Me and my dad were talking about this yesterday, and just talking about how if Xavier Thomas had been the guy that was back there like he had been all night, and he had dropped it, I would have been saying, why didn't you run Austin Williams out there on
right.
this play like he needed to be the one? But it's these kids are gonna make mistakes. It just really sucked that wasn't a big time moment. That was a big time play. I think it was the turning point of the game. And now refresh my memory. I could be wrong here, but we were already down at that point, right? It was 17-16.
Yeah.
So they went on their own 10-yard line and took the lead on third down. Dude,
right.
Let's talk about that aspect of the game too. They had so many third downs.
Right.
And towards the end of the game, we could not stop their third down play call.
We couldn't. And a lot of that, I think we did well. 93 rushing yards from Jaden Daniels. So obviously we didn't do really a super great job stopping him. I think we did well stopping him in the first half. I think when our defense got tired, to your point, once we started getting tired, they started getting better. He got a lot of cheese yards. And what I mean by that is it wasn't like it was a pass run or a quarterback run play. He was just dropping back and then would just go find yards, which is really, I mean, that's what I do in NCAA football when somebody's tearing me up. You know what I mean? That's what I do when I can't do anything else. And so I hate to say that. I hate that's how they went and really kind of won the game at the end there. But I mean, he really was like getting a lot of yards just from our defense dropping back and then him going and finding, 8, 9, 10 yards here. And a lot of that was on third down, which really, really takes the momentum out of your defense.
We need someone on our defensive line or a linebacker that can keep up with these guys, a good pass rusher, because we're getting near him. We just can't bring him down. And I think that we've got to find that guy. Maybe that guy is Crumity and we haven't seen him play. So
yeah.
It's maybe that's who we're looking at. But okay, so kind of closing the recap out. What did you learn about this team on Saturday and moving forward? What's changed now that you've seen us lose a game? Your thoughts are gonna change. It happens midseason. But me and you kind of looked at this game and went, man, that's a hard one to go down there to win in Death Valley. But what's different about this 22 team moving forward?
Yeah. Well, one thing I do want to say, and before I guess fully answer this question, going back to the first thing you asked me, what went wrong? The drop passes, goodness. We dropped 8 passes in this game, and that just cannot happen. Absolutely cannot happen. We cannot do that. We're air raid offense. I mean, Will Rogers, I don't think he played an excellent game, but he played good enough to especially if you have those catches. I mean, that's a totally different ball game. So with that being said, what I learned about the team is that I think I'll be able to tell you after this week, because we've got to be able to bounce back. That's what I've got to learn about this team this week is how can we go lose a game like that? And let's be honest, it was a tough game. It was a gritty game. It was a lining up and go hit them game. I mean, it was very, very hard football. And so we've got to be able to pivot, and our guys have got to be able to understand that, like, that's not the end of the world. We went and lost to Death Valley. That's okay. We've got a lot of other football this season to play. We've got a lot of other teams to play. We got a lot of other stadiums to go to, and we got to win some of those games. So, yeah, I mean, it's not fun, but if we can bounce back, then I think that would be a really, really big lesson, or a really big lesson for me in this team, and just watching them, because it would show me that that we're not going to get down when we have these type moments. And I don't think this will be the last one this year. We got a lot of talent to play.
There's a couple questions within that I want to ask you, but I know some of our tweets that were sent in have those questions in them, so we'll wait till the end of the episode to cover that. But moving on to this week's Bowling Green preview. The Bowling Green Falcons head into Starkville, Mississippi this Saturday, and you're right, we got to bounce back. But the Falcons come in 1-2 on the season with losses to UCLA and Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky went into double overtime and lost. I believe the final score was 57-56. Lots of offense in that game. And then they lost their first game of the season to UCLA 45-7. So two tough losses to start the season, but then last week got a win over Marshall at home in overtime, and Marshall beat Notre Dame.
That's the only thing I know about Marshall this year. So
I didn't know anything really about Bowling Green until I looked up last night. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, man, I was just really hoping that I could just kind of sleep through this Saturday. And now that I've seen them beat Marshall, I'm immediately nervous. You know who the head coach of Marshall is, right?
I've definitely seen it, but no, I don't. I know who he is when you
Chris
say it.
Huff, our old running back coach.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he was. What a great recruiter. Just real quick on that guy. Fantastic recruiter.
We're seeing his recruits right now get every running back snap of the game.
Yeah.
So that's I just got a little nervous and thinking I need to be able to just watch Mississippi State dominate the ball game and chill out for a weekend after what happened last week. But going into Bowling Green, a game we should win. We're favored by 30 points. Who needs to have a big game on Saturday? Who's desperate to have a big game on Saturday?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'll just ease your concerns a little bit, because, Marshall beating Notre Dame and Bowling Green beating Marshall, that's not that big a deal. Notre Dame's garbage. I would take Notre Dame up against any non-conference team we have this year. Like, please let us play them over Arizona, honestly. So, and I mean that too. So I'm really not too concerned with that. But who has to have a big game this weekend? And I hate to go back to him, but Will Rogers has to. He's got – I mean, the dude has got to throw for an unbelievable amount of yards. I want him to break an SEC record of touchdown passes in a game. I mean, I need that from him. One thing that kills me last weekend about Will is there was a moment where he can drive down the field. We muffed the punt. They're up by 8. He can drive down the field and tie that game up. And he didn't have the ice. I don't know a better way to say it to do that. I think he played an okay game. I think he's a great quarterback. I think Bryce Young could have played a worse game than Will Rogers did. But if you give him a chance to go win the game at the end, he does it. And so I need Will Rogers to just come back with a fire this week, because if we get in those moments where he's got one drive to go do it, he's got to be that guy that can go win those games. He can play the best game in the world, but if he can't go finish at the end, then, we need somebody that can do that. So I want to see him tear it up this week, just to come back from that end of the that fourth quarter last week, basically.
Yeah, I even wrote an article last week saying, what did Will Rogers need to have on Saturday? And the answer was swagger. He needed some sort of swagger to go into Death Valley. Dak Prescott had swagger when he went to Death Valley and won in 2014. It's something that, and it's the ice in your veins in the fourth quarter that can change a game. So I completely agree. Offensive player of the game on Saturday can't be Will Rogers.
Offensive player of the game, it's going to be we're going to see goodness, I was going to say Woody Marks, but then I started thinking Dylan Johnson. Honestly, I'm going to go away from both of those guys, and I'm going to say Ra Thomas is going to be our offensive player of the game. I think he's going to dominate. I think that's where we're going to go a lot. I think that's right now. I think that's one of our top receivers. I think Caleb Ducking is the man, but he has dropped think the most passes on any player we've had right now. So with that being said, I want us to target him all game. I want Caleb Ducking's hands to be hurting by the end of it because I want him to have so many balls hit him in the face and in his hands too. And same thing with Ra. So I think Ra is our player of the game, but I want to see both of those guys really get going on Saturday.
Hey, I want to talk about something there that you just said about all of those receivers that you just named. We've got a load of receivers in the depth chart. Do you think that we're playing the best receivers we have on the field at all times?
Oh, that's so tough. I feel like there's people we haven't seen that we would be surprised by. Um, and I feel like we are. I don't think Leach would have people out there that he didn't feel like were the absolute best. But honestly, we could maybe not. And it might be because we need matchups. We might need somebody that's a taller body than some of our faster guys that we just don't really need out there. It might be like a matchup type thing. I really don't know. I feel like we probably are most of the time, and I feel like we've got talent on the field. But who knows? I mean, like I said, there might be some guys off the bench that would really, really surprise us.
I think one of the things that just kind of bugs me watching us play is that we've got, to me, I'm putting Ra Thomas, Xavier Thomas, Caleb Ducking, and Tulu Griffin on the field because Xavier Thomas and Tulu Griffin, although they're a little smaller, are electric players and normally make something happen after the catch. Ducking and Ra on the two ends because they're taller, bigger guys. And I think those are really good for receivers. Now, notice we didn't name Jaden Wally this whole time.
Right.
Where the heck has that dude been?
And that's a great question. Just not really existent like we thought he was going to be. I think, and it's kind of crazy to even say that, and I still think he's a fantastic receiver. Like, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great receiver. He's so good to have as like an extra man with an Austin Williams. If you run those four that you just said, and then you have Jaden Wally and Austin Williams coming out there, those are still two great targets. I don't feel bad throwing either one of them at any time. But I really just think we've had other people kind of step up in that role that Waddle was playing last year. And then I think we'll just kind of see that keep going through the season here. But I would like to see more of him. And I said Waddle, I meant Wally, but
I wish it was Waddle.
Yeah, same.
Defensive player of the game on Saturday.
Defensive player of the game. I'm gonna go big bad number 2, Tyrus Wheat. I think he's the man. I still think he had a fantastic game against LSU. The only holding call they called the whole time was on that kickoff. Don't even get me started on that because Tyrus Wheat's jersey was getting ripped the entire game. I mean, every time he lined up, I was like, that's a hold, that's a hold, that's a hold. So it really did frustrate me that the first one they called was on a kickoff return that we ran for 80 yards or whatever. But I think he's our player of the game this week. I think he played really good against LSU, and he's been pretty consistent this season. So
I like that. I'll go Tulu Griffin as my offensive player of the game. I'll even boldly predict him return kickoff against Bowling Green. And then defensive player of the game, I will go with Emmanuel Forbes. I'll take Emmanuel Forbes to have one and a half over interceptions.
Nice.
And then give me your prediction of Saturday's game.
I'm going to say 52-7 we win. And I really don't want to see much less than that. I would like to see us absolutely dominate this game. I want to win like Tennessee beat Akron. I want to put up at least 50 points. I'd like to put up like 60 points. I want it to be a blowout, not because I want to kill Bowling Green, but because we got to bounce back and get our team back out there. So
I like it. I'll go 45-14. Moving to our SEC picks of the week. As you know, we pick the line, and this gets difficult because you get lines like this every Saturday. Georgia favored by 45 against Kent State. Can Georgia play somebody already? I mean, we've had all of their lines 30 plus this whole season. So who you got? Georgia 45 over Kent State.
I'm going to go Kent State to cover because of the Samford game. That's it. And I think that they went 33 against Stanford, and then you see them play South Carolina last weekend. Georgia's the real deal. I mean, they're the real deal. I think Kent State covers just because I don't think they want to run it up against them. So I think they do cover.
I actually agree. But Georgia is the number one team of the country. You're right. Missouri at Auburn. Auburn's favored by 7. I like this. I like this line because it's interesting.
Missouri at Auburn. Auburn is favored by 7. That is so tough. Mizzou's not been great this year. Auburn's not been great this year. Oh man, I think Vegas knows something. I'm going Auburn to cover there. I think they win by 7.
Dude, Auburn getting destroyed by Penn State. That has potential to turn that program into a dumpster fire with all the stuff that's been going on with their coach and stuff preseason.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose this game, it's going downhill quick.
Yeah.
Give me the Tigers to cover the Missouri Tigers.
Oh, nice.
Probably the game of the week. I mean, game day is going there. Number 20, Florida at number 11, Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 10.5 right now.
And yet again, another tough one. I think both these teams are having a great year in the East from where we thought they were going to be, especially Florida. I mean, they had a big win opening season. I know, like, obviously a loss to Kentucky at home, it's never good, but I mean, it's a new year for them. I wouldn't think too much about that if I was a Florida fan. But Tennessee's played great. This is an SEC opener in the stadium there for them. Neyland is going to be rocking on Saturday. I mean, you got 100-something thousand people packed in there to watch the Florida Gators come in. It's going to be a fantastic environment to be at. I'd love to be there this weekend. With all that being said, I think Tennessee covers just because, I mean, Neyland's going to be absolutely on fire. And I don't think that the Gators are ready for that. And I think Tennessee is very, very ready for that. And I think they're trying to be the team they used to be.
I'm with you. I think Tennessee covers. I think Tennessee looks a whole lot better this year. And after this, if they beat Florida like we're predicting by more than 10 points, they'll be 4-0 and getting a lot of momentum over there in Knoxville. So
that's right.
Tulsa at number 16, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is favored by 21.5. And boy, did I miss that Georgia Tech game last week.
Yeah.
Man.
It was one of those things that I didn't watch. I didn't want to watch after a little bit. And it was also one of those things that I just was not surprised at. And it made me angry that I wasn't surprised at it. With that being said, I think they cover again. I think OM wins by more than 21. They got an explosive offense. I cannot wait for Tyrus Wheat to get across it, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. They just move so quickly down the field that they'll be able to win by more than 21.
Mm-hmm.
Northern Illinois at Kentucky. The line is 26.5 in Kentucky's favor.
This is tough. Kentucky doesn't only beat teams like that, honestly. Even big game, like even games where they probably should dominate. I think they do cover. It's in Kentucky.
Yes,
I think so. I think Kentucky's trying to make a statement this year. And they're in the top 10 right now, right?
Yes, they're number 8.
Yeah. I don't pay attention to these rankings until CFB comes out because I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. AP doesn't matter at all anymore. So that's one reason I didn't know that. But yeah, they are number 8. I think they're trying to stay in the top 10. They obviously want that top 4 spot to make a playoff bid at the end of the season, and they know they know they've got to play Georgia to do that. So I think they need to win a lot of these type games big because let's be honest, Kentucky's probably going to lose at least one this season. And if they want to get in that playoff bid, that's still possible. But they've got to win these type games big, and these little decision-making games, they've got to be a different one for them. So I think they cover because I think it is necessary for them to.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll take Kentucky to cover this one. Number 10, Arkansas at it's not at number 23, Texas A&M, because they're playing in Dallas. I'm so tempted to go to this game. It's 40 minutes down the road.
You should.
I think it'd be a fun environment. It's in Jerry World. Texas A&M's favored by 2.
Oh my gosh, I hate that. I hate that so much.
It's basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, I'm going Arkansas. Let's go Razorbacks. I got a lot of faith in the team this year. They disappointed me, not gonna lie, a little bit. I thought they were gonna be a lot better at the start of the season, but I still think they win that game.
I like Arkansas in this one too. Vandy, poor Vandy, has to go to Alabama this weekend. and Alabama's favored by 40.5.
Yeah, poor Vandy. I hate that for him. I really do. I do think that this is a game that Alabama is going to try to kill Vandy just to like really make a statement. I think Vandy covers. I don't really know why, honestly. I just feel that honestly Alabama's not looking insanely great this year, and Vandy looks okay. I think there's a really good chance Alabama beats them by like 80 points. But I'm just gonna say Vandy covers.
I'll take the Tide. I think Saban just wrecks them. New Mexico at LSU. LSU's favored by 31.5.
Yeah, I think LSU covers that. Yeah, I think they'll win that game big. I think yet again, I think they need to make some statements this season, especially with that opener loss. So I think they should, especially after a big SEC win last week, go in there and dominate.
Yeah, me too. Charlotte at South Carolina. South Carolina's favored by 22.5.
Yeah, I think need a big statement win from South Carolina this week after the butt whipping they took. And what a butt whipping it was. And so if with that being said, I think they do cover. I don't think they're a terrible team. I don't think South Carolina's awful. I think they got a lot of faith in their coach over there. I think they cover this weekend, and I'm as far as it goes right now, they're my favorite team in the East. So I'm cheering for them.
Okay, you like Beamer? Is that
I
what it
do.
is?
I do.
Yeah, I'll take South Carolina too. All right. Whew, not a great slate of games this Saturday. I like the Tennessee-Florida game. Definitely be watching that. I honestly am interested to see what Tulsa does against Ole Miss. I wish
Yeah.
they would do something.
Same.
But not a great slate. But I'll definitely be tuning in to Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M, Arkansas. But now we're going to answer your questions that you sent in. So, Addison, be ready because you got to answer all of them correctly. You got to give all our people the correct answer. So, from William McAdams, do you think LSU is a better team than State from what you saw, or do you think this was a natural case of MSU versus MSU? And and what and how do we fix the mistakes that we make against ourselves?
That is a fantastic question. There's a lot to that, honestly. First off, yes, I do think LSU's a better team. Talent-wise, they are. I think we saw that. It's pretty obvious. I don't think could we win that game anytime? Yes, we absolutely could. I don't think that necessarily matters in that game, especially with the way we opened up. We've got enough talent to win, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, they have more than we do, and that's fine. We're going to have to find ways to beat teams with more talent than us. I do think that they just were better in that aspect. But I do think that, maybe fundamentally we are a better team than them. And that's why we should have went out there and won that game. To answer the next part of his question, was it just Mississippi State being, versus Mississippi State? Absolutely. That's the reason we lost the game, is because we killed ourselves. Like we said, 8 drop passes, the drop by Austin Williams right at the goal line there, the muff punt, those things you just can't have, but those are momentum changers for the other team. If you go back and we just catch those passes, some of those would have been first downs. Some of those would have been, yards after the catch. You don't really know what was going to happen on those drives because we did drop those passes and we did have those mistakes. And then defensively, I mean, the cheese yards that I was talking about. I mean, he tore us up, not because they were outplaying us, but just because we just didn't have a guy fast enough to stop him over the middle. I love Jack Johnson, but he just ain't fast, And so it was a lot of us killing ourselves there. I do think that they had more talent, but I absolutely think we win that game if it's not Mississippi State being Mississippi State. How do we fix that? I think it's execution and moving forward and getting better at not letting those things happen. I know that's the easiest and dumbest answer ever, but that's what we got to do. We got to execute, and we've got to fix mistakes as they happen.
Got to execute. That's what the Leach's offense is about, is execution. Great question, Will.
Great question.
Dale Young says, does Mike Leach's calm to no expression demeanor during games aggravate the fan base?
I think it used to. It definitely did me when he was first there. I was like, dude, can we please get some emotion on the sideline, please? But since then, I've seen a lot of videos of him on the sideline where he is fired up. And being at that Arizona game, we were really close, and I watched him, and he does get fired up. I don't know, the camera's never on him when it happens, so he is emotional out there. But for some reason, every time the camera goes over to him, he's standing there, and it just looks like I don't even know. It looks like his dog died, or it's the same emotion every time. And so I don't really know what that is, but
he definitely is more emotional when he's talking to the team,
yeah.
and that's what I'm sure you saw in Arizona. All right,
And I will say that LSU's coach is the exact opposite. That man stood over there and you could read his face the whole game. So
you know what he's thinking. Evan Ertl sends in, how many touchdowns does Will Rogers have to throw for on Saturday to make us forget about the LSU game?
at least five. At least five. It's a great question, and I want to see him throw for at least 5 touchdowns. He's got to tear it up through the air.
I agree. He also sends in, Bowling Green beat Marshall, who beat Notre Dame by transitive property. If we beat Bowling Green, does that mean that we're better than Notre Dame?
We don't have to beat we don't have to beat Bowling Green for us to be better than Notre Dame. I can go ahead and tell you right now we're better than Notre Dame. I truly believe that. I would take them over half the teams we have to play this year, and I think we'd beat them. I think we'd beat them pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. Brooks Hill sends in 2 questions. I'll ask you the first one. Texas A&M and Arkansas seem like winnable games if we stick to our script. Offensively, besides Rodgers, who can we lean on to be constant? Seems like Austin has fallen out of that spot.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's tough. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, is there somebody else that we could even look at that might be a reliable guy? Um, I think that we need like a Caleb Ducking or somebody that's just out there and active to be the reliable person. I don't think it's bad to go back to Austin Williams, and I mean, especially with the relationship that him and Will have, they're just so in sync. I don't know who that guy would be though. It's tough to tell right now, just because we really don't have anyone that's stepping up and taking that role.
I don't think Austin has fallen out. I just think he made a big mistake in a
Yeah,
big time
yeah, I,
moment
I
that you
agree.
can't forget.
Right.
It's hard to forget it. No, his second question, do we have any real concern about Bowling Green, even with their offensive production? I'm guessing he's talking about the 56-57 game that they
Yeah.
played against Eastern Kentucky.
I don't. We shouldn't. Zach Arnett. I mean, I still got a lot of faith in the guy. I got a lot of faith in our defense. No, we shouldn't have any concerns there. This is a game that we should line up and beat them on the line of scrimmage every single play. And so if we can do that, I don't think we have any issues.
Jonathan Abel sends in, MSU has Peyton Rogers. He actually tagged the kid in the tweet, who is a former EMCC kicker. So Mississippi State has Peyton Rogers just going to school there and could have him kicking, but he's not. Why won't they let him walk on? He's first team all MA CCC punter and second team all MA CCC kicker, 75% field goal percentage, a long of 42, 94% on PAT. That's already better than our kickers. 74 points on the year, average of 37.4 on punts with a long of 68.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not playing. I mean, after everything he says, like, why is I didn't even know that. So why is that guy not on the field? That's crazy, especially when we've had already this season 3 missed extra points. What in the world?
We're
That's another
averaging
thing
one
that we can do.
missed extra point a game.
That is unbelievably sad. So yeah, that's something we absolutely can do. So yeah, if this guy can do it, let's get him out there, please.
It's a momentum killer. Austin Bates sends in, why does Tulu not return punts?
That's a good question. Maybe we don't have a lot of faith in him catching the football. He might be a guy that gets caught up in the lights or something. And for that, I don't think it's never going to be your most explosive guy. It's going to be your most reliable guy that can catch the football every time. You want somebody that is explosive to get yards back. I think I would love to have him back there, honestly, because I mean, you watch him return kickoffs, and it's like goodness, he's so good at it. So I do think I would like to see him back there. I don't really have an answer to that. There's something behind the scenes we're not seeing there. Honestly, they might not just have a lot of faith in the way he would catch that. So
Well, I'll say this: we saw Xavier Thomas back there a lot this Saturday, and I think he is like Tulu 2.0 in my opinion. Like he's the guy that is pretty electric on those punt returns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're kind of getting to a Tulu version on the punt return. Avery Cobb sends in 2 questions. First one, in a previous episode, you mentioned the ceiling for this season was 9-3. How do we feel about that now?
I still agree with that. I think I definitely think my absolute ceiling was like a 10-2 year for us. Now I think my absolute ceiling is a 9-3 for us, and that's losing to the big 3: LSU, Georgia, Alabama, and then us just winning the rest of our SEC games, that's going to be really, really tough, especially seeing what we saw this last weekend. But I think our ceiling's still in that 9-3. I think it's doable for us. We gotta come back, change our game plan, and execute.
Yeah. Second question: How will Rogers bounce back from one of his worst outings as a Bulldog?
What'd you say? Will Rogers bounce back?
I can't. Whenever I see the word "will" as a verb and the word Rogers in the same sentence, it's like it can't come out right. The question
Yeah.
was, how will Rogers bounce back
Okay.
from one of his worst outings as a Bulldog?
I think he just comes in and just activity. I think he's throwing the ball all game. I think it's necessary that he's just getting the ball. And I was telling somebody this, and it's something that this weekend I want to see. I don't want to see dump passes from Will. I like if he's throwing 60 passes and 40 or 50 of those are the little dump balls, I'm not happy leaving the game because I need him to build his confidence. And the way he does that is hitting our receivers on their routes as they're running down the field. I want to see him go over the middle to the sides. I want to see him light it up through the air, and I want to see him do that with our receiving core. So,
C. McKee 3 sends in, why does this team give me hope just to then let me down?
That's a great question. And yes, it's so true. Actually, I got in my calendar now a reminder for next season that says, "Hey, you remember what happened against LSU, right?" And it's just because that happens every year. I'm like, yeah, man, like 10-2 is a possibility. Like, oh, we might beat Georgia. Look at when Georgia's coming to, coming to Davis Wade this year. We got to have a good time. And then things like this happen. And it's also like we're not just gonna get dominated by LSU. We're not just gonna let them blow us out. We're gonna keep it close enough to get your hopes and get your
For
your
sure.
emotions in the game, and then we're gonna rip your heart out. So that's being a Mississippi State fan.
Yeah. And C. McKee, if you're new to being a Mississippi State fan, I'm sorry, but this is the rest of your life, brother. Gerald Young sends in, has your expectations changed after the loss at LSU? Could we still win 9 or 10 games?
Yeah, I think we could. I think 9's doable. 10 maybe with a bowl. Expectations have definitely changed a lot though. I don't think that's as realistic as I thought it was. I think we've got a lot of work to do moving forward. There's a lot of adjustments that we need to make. My expectations have definitely changed, but I do think this is a team that can still go win 9 games. So
I agree. All right. Well, that will do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions. We love answering your questions more than anything on the show. We love being interactive with you guys. So thank you guys for listening. Please be sure to tune in next week. Hope we get a big dub in Starkville this weekend. You'll have a great weekend, and you can check out this podcast on all platforms and on maroonandwhitenation.com. Thank you guys so much for listening.